Hello, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, an off-season storm in the Holy Land turns deadly. French President Macron predicts that Trump will dump the Iranian nuclear deal. And to save you the trouble of actually doing any exercise, we are counting down Israel's top 5 competitive races. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. A group of Israelis were on a pre-army trip in the southern Negev today when floods turned the expedition into a nightmare. Rescuers raced to the scene, and for hours they couldn't even find them. When they finally tracked down the group, some were already unconscious, with others in critical condition that soon worsened. The Education Ministry claims they were unaware any such trip was planned for the day. And this comes less than 24 hours after a similar disaster yesterday, which claimed the life of a young Palestinian girl near Gush Etzion in the West Bank. Etzion rescue volunteers and IDF forces attempted to rescue the girl, but unfortunately were unable to respond in time. Streets all over Israel and the Palestinian territories have seen massive flooding, sometimes dangerously so. Some schools were forced to evacuate, and a ceiling even collapsed due to the rainfall in a commercial center in Rishon LeZion. Though the country does see rain during the winter seasons, Israelis have often complained of the poor infrastructure to properly drain rainwater and prevent flooding. But these two terrible tragedies are painful reminders that Mother Nature is often a force not to be reckoned with. The body of slain Hamas engineer Fadi al-Bach has been returned to Gaza for burial. Al-Bach was shot in a drive-by shooting in Malaysia last weekend, and though officials haven't yet made any arrests, both Hamas and al-Bach's family have blamed the Israeli Mossad for orchestrating the attack. Israel, as a matter of policy, has not yet commented, but the claim of Mossad involvement has now been backed up in a recent article in the New York Times. Joining me now via Skype is co-author of the aforementioned article, Dr. Ronen Bergman. Dr. Bergman, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
All right, so my first question, maybe just to get a little bit of backstory, why was al-Bach targeted and why in Malaysia? You know, why not here in the Middle East before or after his Malaysia trip?
He was not on a trip. He was dispatched by the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam, the military brigade of Hamas, to Malaysia back in 2011. So he was living there. He was finishing his postdoc, and then he was part of a secret Hamas unit that dealt with procurement of sophisticated arms, sophisticated technology for the Hamas armament in Gaza, and the R&D for some of their most complicated projects like drones, like underwater submarines and others. So he was part of an overall attempt of Hamas to spread their R&D and procurement nucleuses projects all over the world to get them as far as they can from Gaza, thus as far as they can from Israeli intelligence and the range of Israeli aircraft that would bomb such a site if it was located in Gaza.
So, okay, so all that information taken into account, that would be a good reason, I suppose, for Israel to want to target a man like al-Bach. But what evidence, I mean, you claim that the Mossad was in fact involved, that government officials in the Middle East, Middle Eastern intelligence officials have corroborated the story. What can you tell us about these officials and the proof that they've brought forward?
Well, as in the report of the New York Times from today, as was written by Hannah Each and myself, and reported by some other correspondents from Hong Kong and Gaza, Western and Middle Eastern intelligence officials have told us, confirmed to us, that it was the Mossad who was behind that assassination.
But do these officials have anything to do with the Mossad? I mean, how, like, convince me in a sense, I hate to say. Like, what makes you so sure that the Mossad did it? That, and I don't know, why, what other conclusions can we come to from that,
The conclusions are, as they are put very clearly forward in the story, and that is that people with knowledge of the event, as well as of the overall project of the Mossad to hit these targets and to try and dismantle the R&D secret Hamas unit as came from orders from Mossad Chief Yossi Cohen. These sources with knowledge of that have confirmed to us it was the Mossad behind that. As you can probably understand, we are not able to identify the sources further or to give more information than we did. But I think that the story, as published, has a lot of details about what exactly was the late Fadi El-Bach was doing in Kuala Lumpur, his contact with North Korea, the fact that he was mediating the shipment of sophisticated parts for missiles and drones from North Korea through Malaysia, through Egypt, en route to the Gaza Strip. One of these shipments was already caught by Egyptian security forces. All that, I think, gives a strong indication that the sources with whom we spoke, and again, it's a team from the New York Times who spoke with him, has a very good knowledge of what actually happened.
Sure. All right, Dr. Ronen Bergman, thank you very much for coming in and sharing all that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
With the deadline to reapprove or withdraw from the Iranian nuclear deal roughly 2 weeks away, United States President Donald Trump faces a difficult decision. Trump has long slammed the deal as the worst he's ever seen, but with no alternative in place, many say canceling it altogether could potentially be catastrophic. French President Emmanuel Macron just met with Trump in Washington to discuss the deal. Now TV's Brett Allen Smith is here with the details. Brett?
Hi, thanks, Aaron. Well, Trump and Macron have just finished a series of talks at the White House. Here's how Macron feels after those meetings. Let's go ahead and see what he says.
Donc, je ne sais pas quelle sera la décision américaine, mais l'analyse rationnelle de la totalité des déclarations du président Trump ne m'incite pas à penser qu'il fera tout pour maintenir le JCPOA.
Okay, so Macron has elaborated on this statement. Specifically, he says Trump will likely pull out of the U.S. out of the deal, mostly just to deliver on his campaign promise to do so and kind of just to save face with his voter base.
All right, well, I mean, to be fair, Israeli leaders also side with Trump on this. For the most part, they feel that this is a terrible deal that should have either been fixed or dismantled a long time ago. Trump has reportedly been looking for a clear path out of this since he took office. Because he feels it gives Iran far too much leniency in developing a nuclear program and other concerns.
Right, so there's of course a lot to dive into here. So first let's take a look at why Macron, along with every other nation who did sign on, is in favor of keeping it. So no deal is perfect, but here's what this deal does do. It requires Iran to reduce its stockpile of uranium down to 2% of what it had before, 2%. And it prohibits them from enriching uranium past 3.67%. And you have to enrich uranium to at least 90% purity in order to achieve the critical mass necessary to make a nuclear bomb. So this is no small concession. And furthermore, the deal requires regular checkups into Iranian facilities by nuclear watchdogs to make sure that those terms are obeyed in their fullest form.
But again, I mean, the argument against this is that Iran is likely evading proper inspections and hiding its actual operations. And Trump has long accused Iran of perhaps following certain rules of the deal while privately violating the spirit of it.
Sure, but remember, Macron and Europe aren't blind to this idea that Iran may say one thing and do another. I mean, that's politics for you. And even if this deal is just something that buys the world's nations a few more years, the fact that any inspectors are allowed to at all in may be better than, none at all. Because trust me, the last thing that Europe, the U.S., or of course Israel wants is an unchecked Iranian regime armed with nuclear weapons. I mean, essentially that would be a repeat of what we have right now with North Korea.
All right, well, using North Korea as an example, Trump says reimposing sanctions on Iran will be way more effective than staying in the deal. That's what brought them to the table in the first place, allegedly. And a lot of Israeli leaders agree that they say if Iran collapses economically, so does the threat of a nuclear reaction. In fact, many say that that's kind of what we're seeing now in North Korea. Now that Kim Jong-un has agreed to attend summit talks with the United States.
Well, I think a lot of people would kind of disagree with that assessment. So first of all, Iran is not North Korea. When Iran began developing its nuclear program, it was already under those harsh sanctions, like you said. And yes, the country has definitely struggled horribly as a result. But during that time, they were able to A, develop nuclear capabilities, B, finance proxy forces and entrench itself all over the Middle East, and C, put itself in a very impressive bargaining position. So if the U.S. pulls out of the deal, Iran says that they will be prepared to start enriching uranium to 90% the very next day. And yes, it is almost certainly capable of doing exactly that. And that's why for Macron, for Europe, even for many of Trump's former, now fired, strategists and advisors, there is no plan B here. Not for now, anyway, unless someone comes up with a better way to fix it.
All right, well, the clock is definitely ticking. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about on this subject as the deadline gets closer.
Sure.
Thanks for the update, Brett.
Of course.
Okay, a third country has emerged as next in line to relocate its government's embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, effectively recognizing the Holy City as Israel's capital. The Czech Republic has just announced a three-step plan to make the move, following the example of both the United States and Guatemala. There's no clear timetable on the map yet, but in the Czech president's own words, hopefully, quote, next year in Jerusalem. President Miloš Zeman has been extremely vocal about supporting such an embassy move. After announcing his plan, however, the Czech Foreign Ministry seemed to pump the brakes a bit. According to them, the country still respects the joint policy of the European Union, quote, which sees Jerusalem as the future capital of the State of Israel and the State of Palestine, end quote. Still, President Zeman says next month the country will open an official consulate in Jerusalem, the first phase of ultimately moving all embassy operations from Tel Aviv. No schedule yet for exactly how or when the rest of that move will occur, but given the Czech Republic's warm relations with Israel, it looks like the gears are already in motion. Science has an answer for just about everything, but when it comes to the nature of our memories, there's still a lot of question marks. Well, a breakthrough new Israeli study has just made a shocking discovery. It turns out that our memories might actually be part of our genes, and scientists found evidence in mice that good and bad memories actually leave a distinct genetic mark on our brains, one that sticks around even long after death. This is a potentially groundbreaking study. Our memories are obviously a critical part of the human experience because past memories typically influence future decisions and arguably make us who we are. This Israeli team at the Hebrew University stumbled onto the find almost by accident. They were originally researching the effect of cocaine and drug addiction on mice. When they found a recurring genetic mark on mice's brains that were similar, they decided to test what happened if they put mice through different experiences instead. That test revealed an altogether different genetic imprint on the brain. The team conducted all kinds of tests, eventually discovering 14 specific genetic patterns that correlated to past memories. Different experiences also left a different kind of imprint on the brain. For example, a mouse tasting sugar for the first time is left with a different genetic stamp than a mouse who's already gobbled a ton of it. Scientists narrowed these genes down to 7 physical areas of the brain related to memory. And get this, when the lab mice died, those imprints could still be found on the brain several hours after the mice had passed away. Scientists are still several years away from being ready to conduct similar tests on humans. But rest assured, the discovery of genetic imprints from our memories opens up an entire world of psychological treatment, and maybe even a little of our own self-discovery. Now, as much as we'd love to believe we are, Israelis aren't the only ones who are making advancements and innovations in the world. In fact, international personal care company L'Oreal is hosting for the 26th year the annual Brand Storm Challenge. Student participants from over 60 different countries are trying their luck at beating this year's competition to invent the professional salon experience of the future. Well, here now with more about this amazing competition is Dorit Vidavsky from L'Oreal Israel's Corporate Communications. Thank you very much for being here.
Hi, Aaron. Good evening.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening to you as well. So tell me a little bit about this competition and maybe about some of the Israeli companies or startups or students who are participating.
Okay, so as you said, thousands and thousands of students are participating from all over the world. Lucky us, 57 Israeli students were competing in Israel.
Wow.
And out of them, 6 groups that presented, as you said, the experience and empowering the new salon, beauty salon,
Sure.
hair salon mainly, of L'Oréal Professionnel. And the group won. By the way, there were groups from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv University, and the IDC, the Herzliya University. And the group who won was the DOT group, 3 fantastic students, super innovating, that presented a beauty box as an innovation, which will contain on a platform something that will give an answer, specific answer, individual to each woman. So it's like Netflix. The platform is like Netflix, which is amazing.
Kind of like user data turns into advice on beauty and things like that?
Exactly.
Wow.
So, and something else that we are winning from this competition is that at the same time, we are watching the students while they perform their innovations, and then they have the chance, if they are becoming like talents, if we see them as talents, they are invited to work for L'Oréal Israel in one of our 18 brands.
So this, aside from the competition and the award and whatever it is, this could turn into a real life work experience, career opportunity.
We have many students up until now from different universities who are working for Lancôme, for Maybelline New York, and so on.
Okay, and as I understand it, the final portion of the competition is coming up in Paris?
In Paris on May,
in May?
16th of May.
All right, well, we're definitely going to have to look out for the
Fingers
results of that. Fingers are most certainly crossed. Dorit, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, now, breast cancer is a most commonly diagnosed cancer for women, affecting 1 in 8 women all over the world. And though science has come a long way in detecting breast cancer, frankly, expensive scans and tests haven't always proven totally reliable. Well, Israeli scientists have done it again. They've just announced an incredible new method for detecting this disease. It's cheap, non-invasive, and most importantly, up to 95% accurate.
The incredible new method doesn't involve any chemicals in the body, no mammography scans, and 0 MRIs. All it needs is a sample of your breath and a run-of-the-mill urine test. Scientists at the Ben Gurion University of the Negev, in collaboration with Soroka Medical University Medical Center in Beersheva, are able to take these samples and ID the disease using biomarkers. According to their study, every disease leaves behind its own biological trace on the body, kind of like a chemical calling card. By analyzing your breath and your urine, the new system can sniff out the earliest signs of breast cancer with up to a 95% precision. Obviously, early detection is crucial in the fight against breast cancer, and any cancer really. But the common tests like mammography screenings actually miss about 1 in every 5 cases of breast cancer. For this new method, though, scientists have developed a special electronic device that measures your breathing called an e-nose that's fast, painless, and stunningly accurate. The team plans to apply this method to detecting all kinds of other cancers and diseases as well, which means once again Israeli innovation is out to save the world.
She's known as one of the queens of alternative rock, and on July 30th, she's hitting the Holy Land yet again to serenade Israeli audiences. I'm talking about beloved Canadian singer-songwriter Alanis Morissette, and this show is scheduled for right around the time her rumored, still unnamed 9th studio album is set to drop. That means Israeli audiences might even be getting a sneak peek at tomorrow's chart topper.
How about getting off of these antibiotics?
Morissette is, of course, best known for her rock album Jagged Little Pill, featuring such iconic 90s hits as Ironic and Head Over Feet. The pop star is actually no stranger to Israel. She's already toured the Holy Land multiple times, most famously back in 2012, mere weeks after the end of Operation Pillar of Defense, performing despite intense public pressures from BDS to bail. She's also performed on Israeli stages as far back as 2000 at the height of her career, when she was also breaking out as an actress. Needless to say, Israeli ticket buyers are already flocking to the box office to grab seats. Morissette will perform in one of Rishon LeZion's biggest venues, and tickets just went on sale starting at 285 shekels. But you ought to know, that's a small price to pay for seeing one of rock's biggest stars perform in the flesh.
It's said that home is where the heart is, but that home, can mean a very different thing for me than it does to you. Well, the Ben Ami Gallery is here in Tel Aviv, now hosting a special exhibition on this exact concept, and joining me with some of her works is Sagit Kachka, a potter and artist in the home exhibition. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So I see this beautiful piece here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that first?
Yes, the project that I'm doing is about the home concept, like you told before. It's a whole group of architecture structures, like castles, that's dealing with home thing, the home concept. You find inside world, inside the castles, on the walls, inside buildings, inside. If you take a peek inside, you'll see a whole world inside also. It's painted with real gold.
Wow.
And this one is one of the smallest pieces.
It's gorgeous. It's very ornate and so much detail that really went into this. How does this remind you of home? How does this kind of bring in those feelings of home out?
It's a good question. I've been searching for the feeling of home for so many years, and once I visited a castle, an amazing castle, and then I felt home. So I decided That's my home.
Maybe it was
And
in
I'm a
another
potter,
life.
so I'm doing pottery. So yes.
Wow. All right, so tell me a little bit now about like the Ben Ami Gallery and this kind of and this exhibition. How many other artists are presenting?
Around 5 photographers that's dealing with the home concept. It's amazing because you can see the contrast between the castles and the photographs. Yes, it's like homeless photographs around. I don't want to discover the whole concept because it's a very, very difficult exhibition sometimes, because you see behind the castles, you see the hard life.
Right.
So
that's all right. So okay, I want to know a little bit more about maybe some of the techniques you use here, because you're telling me you're using real gold. How do you mix those in with these and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, where are you going next with this?
okay, so the process is like I'm sitting on the wheel, and when it's leather hard. The material is leather hard. I start to cut. Yes, I cut it and I connect the parts. Burn it twice to a high temperature.
Fire it twice, make it into a ceramic, and then
and then glazing, and then the third burn is the gold.
Oh, okay. So you burn it the third time.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, I can't wait to see more of your pieces. The Ben Ami Gallery is showing all of this up until, I believe, middle of next month.
The 19th of May.
All right. Thank you so much, Sagi.
Thank you.
And up now, this week's Top 5 with ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh.
Like most of us, Israelis can get very competitive when it comes to racing each other. And the athletic competition calendar is filled with epic races to take part in. So I'm here to give you guys the top 5 competitive races in Israel. Number 1 on our list is definitely the most famous one. The annual Giro bike race always opens with a Big Start traveling event outside of Italy. And this year, Israel is hosting the Big Start for the first time outside of Europe. Cyclists will spend 3 days biking around Jerusalem, Haifa, Tel Aviv, Eilat, and many more cities in the Holy Land, and will ultimately finish on May 22nd in Italy. You won't want to miss this. Second on our list is the Tel Aviv Samsung Marathon, a multi-course event that allows runners of all levels and styles to participate. This marathon is a yearly citywide celebration that allows runners to enjoy a beautiful run alongside the seashore and main Tel Aviv streets. And this year, over 40,000 people are expected to participate. Are you one of them? Sovev Emek, or Round the Valley Ultramarathon, is the third on our list. This marathon was founded by the members of Kibbutz Hazorea and is located in northern Israel. This event began as a way to promote competitive trail racing, appreciation for nature, and environmental conservation. If you're looking for a good way to get in touch with nature while also exercising, this is definitely the way to go. Fourth up is the International Grand Fondo Arad Dead Sea Race. One of the most unique road cycling festivals is expected to see over 1,000 riders from 30 different countries. The race starts at the lowest place on Earth, also known as the Dead Sea, and will take riders through a 155-kilometer circuit. During the race, participants will ride through the most scenic views in the Holy Land, so it doesn't really get much better than that. Last but definitely not least, the Tel Aviv Night Run. The race begins at 9 p.m. and lasts till around midnight and includes a 10-kilometer race that attracts over 25,000 runners each year. Oh, and you can't forget about the thousands of Tel Avivians that come to cheer you on. So if you are in the area for this event, you won't want to miss the Tel Aviv Night Run. That's all for today's Top 5. Back to you.
Okay, here comes the Hebrew word of the day. April showers are said to bring May flowers, but Israelis don't know what to make of the hailstorm that we had here yesterday, so today's word is barad, which is how you say hail in Hebrew. Ever been caught in the rain and suddenly had a piece of barad or hail smack you on the head? Yeah, not so fun. Barad is what happens when the atmosphere is actually cold enough to freeze rainwater, turning rain into barad, which then plummets to earth. And sometimes barad is just a tiny little harmless speck of ice. Other times, like yesterday, the barad can get as big as a golf ball and deliver some serious hurt. The biggest barad ever recorded was a whopping 8 inches in diameter, about as big as a softball. That particular chunk of barad landed in Vivian, South Dakota on July 23, 2010. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy with scattered showers and a low of about 62 or 17 degrees Celsius. The weekend is expected to be roughly the same, with more scattered showers and a high of around 75 or 24 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.58 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News. and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras, and thank you for watching.